Did you know that some people are still making games for older consoles to this day? Let's talk about it! Homebrew. It's not to refer to your favorite glass of orange juice, but rather refers to the unofficial development of software for video game consoles. In other words, this is software that has not been approved by the official gaming companies that are in charge for allowing said software onto their hardware. An easy way of knowing this is if the software itself lets you know very early on that it has been licensed by a gaming company to be on their platform. This is not to say that the company owns the software itself, but rather that the software has gotten official permission to be on the platform. Homebrew, on the other hand, will often make it clear that it is not official software and that it was simply developed by fans for the platform, where they sometimes even have credits on who made it. Though a weird point, it is still worth discussion on whether or not it is ethical to sell homebrew video games. If said homebrew game is based on an existing property, or is existing on currently supported modern hardware by gaming companies, it would likely be deemed illegal. For the former, it is because you don't own that intellectual property, and for the latter, it would be because the platform holders wouldn't be getting any royalties out of it, or for that matter, the developers and publishers who were working on the game. However, if it is based on older and no longer supported consoles, say in this case the Super Nintendo Entertainment System or the Game Boy Advance, then that would be fine, as those games are no longer on consoles, as they no longer carry any more mainstream relevance to have games made for it in the first place. And of course, it helps for the game to be original. But in regards to a less gray topic, we have homebrew that isn't meant to be sold as well. Software isn't just games, you know, but are rather just programs that are meant to have consoles behave differently. Being unofficial, of course, the homebrewers need to find a way to get their software working on the unsupported hardware. Unsupported officially, anyway, if you know what I mean. This can be done by either using an oversight exploit that is found in the console's software or hardware to make it vulnerable, in this case a soft mod, or it can be done physically by changing certain pieces of hardware so that it may now recognize the unsupported software, which is a hard mod. Though regardless of whatever exploit is being used, the goal is to get the unsupported software on the hardware in some manner. Once the exploit has been exploited, the world of homebrew has opened up to you. This can range from playing digital-only homebrew games, to playing on emulators, to even playing on specific fan-made firmware if you want. I should mention that physical homebrew games don't often have to deal with this, due to being made in the same format as an officially produced unit. Though speaking of games, I'd say that my favorite use of homebrew is using it to rip the contents of an existing physical unit, in this case a Nintendo Wii disc, from a Nintendo Wii and creating a personal copy of said game. For even if I might prefer physical units over digital ones, even I cannot deny that physical units cannot last forever. Thus, copying the files onto, say, a hard drive, and then later playing on an emulator is an ideal means of preservation. Or you could even play the game running directly off of the hard drive itself. This is actually possible for a lot of consoles that have built-in hard drives. However, this hard drive example is largely attributed to the Nintendo Wii itself. As what is funny about this is that it wasn't until much later that consoles would support the ability to run games off of their internal hard drives, as consoles were starting to get internal hard drives. Which, in other words, means that homebrew is giving older consoles retroactively the ability to rip the contents of their games. It should be noted that when the process of ripping was officially implemented, such as with the Xbox 360 for example, the console itself would not let you play the game until the disc that you used to rip it in the first place was inserted into the disc tray, or at least a copy of the disc, to my knowledge. That way, it acts as an extra security measure to make sure that the game you are playing is a legally bought copy. I know that I've only scratched the surface on what video game homebrew is, but I ask you, the audience, on what you think of this phenomenon. Leave your answer in the challenge below, and I'll see you next time with something else.